What's up? It's your boy Tommaso.
And Alessandro.
And we're back with another sample breakdown. The joint we're showing you today is called Magnate, and it's from our Millionaire Mindset sample pack. As you might be able to guess just from the title, it's all about those luxury vibes and lavish and opulent, sophisticated instrumentations. This joint in particular is one of our favorites. So we're gonna get into all the details, show you how we put it together, how we recorded everything, edited everything to sound the way it sounds. Without further ado, let's get to it.
So what started this composition was the piano. If you can get your hands on a real piano, it's always better to use a real instrument compared to a VST, because the real instruments, they just fill out the space better and they have more
character.
Which gives the sound more character and makes it just sound a lot better. I recorded this piano at home, so it's not this very instrument that we've used for the sample, but I've used the same mics that we got here, which are the Rode NT2A. I used two of them. I used the standard stereo setup, sort of placed the mics up here and opened the piano up, and I recorded them into a UAD Apollo Twin. That's the setup. Let's just get to the music. It goes a little something like this. As you might have been able to hear, right before the chord on the downbeat, there's a little gap there. I just cut that out later and to put it on beat. Two chords we have here are basically a B flat major 13, which goes like this. So you got the B flat, the 5th, the 7th, 9th, 11th, 13th. It's a really open chord. And then it goes to A minor 9. 3rd, 5th, 7th, 9th. So it resolves into the A minor pretty nicely. So it's like... The technique I'm using up here are these like 30-second notes. I just switch hands really fast, like... And you have this melody up here. So I guess that's everything there's to say about this piano. Let's jump into our DAW and show you how it's edited. This is the dry recording of the piano, and as I said earlier, there's a little gap that I left when the new bar comes in. I just chopped that up and put it on beat, and this is what it sounds like. Has a nice bounce to it already. This is the editing on the piano. First thing we added was the sound shifter, and this is a pitch shifting tool, and I used it to transpose the piano up one semitone. So this is what it sounds like now.
Makes the whole high end shine a little more.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, it sounds a bit more brilliant. The next thing we have is like a bunch of corrective stuff. So X-Click. This is a plugin to eliminate clicks and pops and like just stuff that you don't need on your recording. Once you chop and time stretch and pitch stuff around, Cubase tends to introduce like little weird artifacts, and this just gets rid of it.
Cubase, if you're watching, fix that shit.
Yeah, I don't know why it does that sometimes.
It's been the same since version...
Forces me to render stuff.
Like since version 11 or so.
This is a filter rolling off some of the lows and highs. Dirty Filter is a great plugin. It's free if you need to get your hands on a great filter. Ref Plate. This is a reverb plugin. We use the Subtle Vocal Room preset. Use the blend fader to add it to taste. You know, when you add the preset, it's somewhere around here, which is way too much. And
yeah, but by that time, you're basically standing in church.
Basically in a church or bathroom. And, you know, just lowered the mix. This EQ just adds more highs and rolls off some of the very high frequencies that you won't need anyway. Next we have the RVox compressor. This compressor is intended to be used for vocals, but I like to throw it on everything because of the ease of use. You just pull this down and it makes the sound louder and more in your face. Just brings the piano more to the front. Then we have the Oxide tape recorder. I like to throw this on all sorts of real recordings, whether it's voice or piano or guitars or whatever. It just adds a little bit of that analog charm to the sound. When you want to create samples, it's always nice to add that to the instruments in order to, make them sound less out of the box. People who want to sample the samples that we make, they appreciate it if it sounds more analog,
more authentic too.
Exactly,
because that's the real version of those plugins is what they used to use back in the days, like the real tape machines and real instruments, and that's how they got their records to sound a certain way. And if you're going for that sound, it only makes sense to try and emulate the process that they used to use, and that's where these plugins come in handy.
This is also a preset. It's called Colorful Keys. Then we have a multiband compressor. You can also see what makes the multiband compressor so nice is on the first chord, because it's lower, you see it doesn't really do anything. And then when the high chords come in, then this is when it starts working. It's pretty nice. This is the wave center, basically separates the mid and side signal and lets you dial in, the loudness on each one. So you have the center fader, and that just boosts or lowers the loudness on the center of your signal. And you have the side signal, which does the same thing for the sides. And what I did is I pushed the center a bit and lowered the sides a bit. I guess I have done that because at the very end I felt like it doesn't really sound that good in mono. This is a good tool that you can use to compensate for that. Finally, we have RC20. This adds like a little tape noise, a little wobble, which means the pitch of the instrument goes like up and down like this to emulate worn out vinyl. Distortion, this just adds a little bit of like tube distortion. And magnetic, the last one, it adds that wear and flutter from like a cassette tape. Lastly, we have a filter down here. It rolls off some lows and highs. And the magnitude is basically the mix fader. Let's just take a listen with and without all the effects real quick. So this is without any effects. And now with the effects.
So like my brother said, the piano was like the main element of this particular sample, and I feel like the bass line is like the second most important element in this particular composition. Sometimes the bass line fulfills more of a supporting role and just gives context to the other instruments, but in this case it's a little more sophisticated. It's doing a little more work. Let me show you exactly what we played here. Here there's this melody fill. And it sustains, and then there's the... So one thing that you can notice here, it's actually a trillion patch. This particular this particular patch is called Muted Retro 60s Mute. The cool thing about the muted patches in trillion is that they sound, at least to our ears, they sound more authentic because they don't have characteristics of a VST bass that kind of give away the fact that it's not a real bass, but actually a plugin.
Yes, and the treble of the sound, how you have the clicks and pops of the bass, they tend to give away it's not a real bass.
Yeah, it sounds artificial because a real bass wouldn't sound like that. Speaking of a real bass, I feel like the reason why a VST patch works in this particular composition, even though we just talked about how important it is to use live instruments when you're going for that particular vibe, is because of the way it's played. When you're going for this particular vibe, you kind of want to play the way a real bassist would have played, because that just makes the whole thing sound a lot more authentic. And because of the way it's played, it actually sounds real in the composition, even though it's a plugin. That just goes to show you how important it is to actually play those instruments in a way that the real instruments could be played. Sometimes you might see that when you're looking for a new plugin and there's a demo by somebody who's really good on the keyboard, and they play a demo for an organ VST, and it sounds authentic. It sounds like they're playing in a church, and then you get your hands on it and can't really get that sound out of there. Exactly, because it's the playing, it's the performance, it's playing it the way the real instruments would be played. And that's what makes it sound authentic. That's what makes it sound real. What will definitely increase your understanding of how to program certain instruments is if you work with real musicians. Hire somebody to replay your bass line, see what they do. 9 times out of 10, it will sound better than what you came up with. The more you work with real musicians, the better you understand how they would do it, and so you can do it better too. It helps you to level up as a composer and producer, really.
So the next part we have is a Rhodes. For this, we use the Rhodes plugin from UAD, and the preset is called It's Just Chorus. As the name suggests, it's just like a very wide chorusy Rhodes sound that you can use for like a pad in the background just to fill up the space. And this just follows the chords of the piano, more or less.
Any editing on there? I don't think so.
No, this is just the stock sound with nothing on. If you use a Rhodes like that, oftentimes it doesn't really need a lot of editing because it's just sitting in the background. At the very end, we have this little chord right here. Sort of to, you know, grab the attention there. And then we have the synth key patch right here. And this is from the Analog Lab. It's called Old Tape Split. The idea behind the synth keys was that the Rhodes and the synth keys, I sort of treated them as one instrument, because the Rhodes, it's wide and like warm, but it doesn't really have that high end. My idea first was to, you know, play this with the Rhodes, but then it didn't really shine, and I used this synth key patch because this patch just has a bit more sparkle to it. And together they sound really nice. So the next thing we have is this piano right here, which is a VST plugin or like a contact patch. And what this actually is, it's my own piano. I just recorded every key in multiple velocities and created a contact patch. The reason why I did that is because last year I was traveling for a month. I wanted to have my piano with me while I'm traveling, so I did this before I left. Basically used this as my go-to piano plugin for the time. And even now I still use it, as you can see here. If you look at the arrangement real quick, it plays when the real piano isn't playing. So it's like a pre-chorus right here where this piano plays. E major 13 and I don't know, A sharp minor 9. It has that little fill here. When the real piano comes back for the chorus, you have this piano playing the low notes. Just to make the chorus sound a bit, you know, bigger.
Let us know if you want to have that piano patch.
And the next thing we have is this horn fill right here. And I like because, you know, it plays F, C, and C is the 9th of the minor chord of the B flat minor 9. It leads into the chords. Pretty dope. So let me play it with all the other instruments so that you can hear what I'm talking about.
As you might have noticed from the title here, it says Big Time French Horns. We actually got that recording from our Horn Anthems Volume 3. I just wanted to point out how valuable it is to work with musicians and actually build a library of your own samples, because a lot of times you can use those recordings more often than just once. You know, this is just a small fill, but if we were to play that with a VST, we'll get the job done, but it wouldn't sound as cool as actually having a performance of the real thing. It just enhances the whole composition. And also down here, you have this guitar effect, which is also from one of our sample packs. So
this is like transposed and reversed. And
exactly.
edited.
So you wouldn't even notice where it's from. I think by now we have like 115 sample packs or so. There's just a huge advantage to having a library of live recordings of all those instruments that you can recycle. It will enhance your new compositions in a way that these particular 2 examples did for this joint.
The last element we have for the chorus is this choir right here. I sung this top line, and I layered it with some like female vocal VSTs. And then I added some harmonies, and I layered the harmonies with like a female singer thing as well. So at the end we have 9 separate voices. And we were talking about real instrument versus plugin kind of thing. If you can sing a little bit, like I don't have a great singing voice, but I can hit a pitch and use some autotune to make it sound decent. You can record a choir or like a whatever vocal VST you have and just layer it with your own voice. It'll make it sound more realistic, authentic in a sense. In terms of editing, like I said, the takes, they are all edited, cut, and auto-tuned. Once I have all these takes right here, first thing is I routed all of those sounds into one group. I also panned them. Here you can see the panning, just left and right. The first thing we have on the group is an EQ to roll off some low end. Imager from Isotope, just to make the choir sound wider. Just turn up this band right here to 37%. Multiband compressor to tame some of the mids. Because for a choir like that, it's supposed to sound a little like heavenly, I guess you could say. It's more about the high frequencies and the upper register of the voice. This is a room plugin. This is supposed to emulate a room. It's from T-Rex. Makes the recording sound as if all these people stand together in one room instead of me just singing into the microphone all the time.
Yeah. It's also cool on pianos.
We also have the center, and in this case I boosted the sides. So with the piano earlier I boosted the mids.
So you can tell we're going for a wide...
Yes, with the imager and the center, it's supposed to sound like very wide and add some width for the chorus. That's usually what you want to do. Boosted the highs. And then we have RVox again. This time it's, I guess, used for its intended purpose. It's on vocals. So, and like I said, you drag this down and it automatically compensates the loudness and turn down the gain a bit. And another EQ, roll off some more low end and add some more highs. This right here, like between 2 and 5K, this is where vocals are the most audible to the ear. And this is Valhalla Vintage Verb. I really like this plugin. There's an automation here, as you can see. And this is the mix fader from the reverb is automated. Right now it's at 0%, it's not working at all. But when the choir sings this last chord right here, it goes up. Let's just take a listen. When the choir stops singing here, the reverb kind of sustains the choir. So now we showed you all the elements. Let's just listen to the full sample. Says Rick Ross all over it. And now the piano drops.
This is like a pre-chorus part.
Pre-chorus sort of part, yeah. Effect takes us back into the verse.
Oh yeah. So as always, we had to test drive that sample, which is what we do with a lot of the samples that we compose. We just, throw in some drums, see how it works, see what it would sound like if somebody tried to make a beat with this, which is what we did. We noticed that we really liked how that came out. So in this particular case, we went a step further and actually got our man Johnny Stacy to write and record a hook to this joint. So it came out super dope. So let me show you what that sample sounds like with drums as a beat with a chorus on it. Here comes the hook.
Stay down, I know it may get hard. I know you can't really fight. Can't let nothing get in the way. You gotta keep grinding, trying to get it on. Wanna rule the world, so you gotta keep grinding. Don't miss your chance, you just gotta stay down.
Yeah. So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this breakdown and picked up something new that you can use in your production. If you're into those types of samples, make sure you check out the Millionaire Mindset sample pack. It's available on dopeboykits.com. If you are an artist and you like this particular beat, it's called Stay Down and it's available on dopeboysmusic.com. It's available with the chorus as well as without it. So whatever you prefer, you can choose that. Next week, we'll show you some retro VHS vibes. So stay tuned for that. As always, thanks for watching. Peace.
Peace.
Stay down, I know it may get